Very impressive.
So you ready to get going?
I think we're pretty much going as it is.
No intro? Alright. Hi, people.
Late intro, but whatever. So I think I'm just going to keep the character select screen over most of this as it is, because this is primarily what we're looking at.
Basically, yeah. That's what I have up. So what we're talking about today is our early impressions before release of Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z.
Which is, according to Namco, the first new Dragon Ball Z game in over 2 years.
Which, it's technically true. HD Collection doesn't count as a new game because it's a collection.
Are we just not counting Kinect in there?
No, because it's basically a Kinect optimized version of whatchamacallit, Ultimate
And there's
Tenkaichi,
also Zenkai Battle Royale that came out in Japan.
Arcade games don't count, otherwise we'd be sitting here for an hour just talking about
I think it was on
games.
PS3 in Japan. I think. Okay.
No, it wasn't.
Alright, it looks like an okay game also. Not necessarily good, but at least better than what we've gotten so far in this generation of consoles.
For what's going to be on the screen, I want you to, while we're going for this when it's actually up, I want you to just put the character roster, because that's going to be most of the compliments.
I've
and
already
complaints.
said that, so don't worry about it. Oh, and us just kind of going back to the wiki page every now and then.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm looking at it the whole time, but for the people who are watching this, what's
pretty
going
much,
to be on screen? But for the character roster, I have two problems.
Okay.
One, every character is their own form. That's problematic because that inflates the roster when the roster is considerably smaller than most games, which automatically you already have a very bloated problem.
Yeah, it's pretty much just padding at that point.
On the other hand, at that point, you also have characters that don't need to be there, or taking up spaces that could go to other more valuable characters who I could think of off the top of my head who should go and who should stay and who should be added. Get rid of Soldier. It's a funny character, it's a gag, I get that, but it doesn't need to be there.
But it's still there. I mean, it's something.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's just there taking up space. You want to put in movie characters, you want to put in people who might have mattered. You got Broly, you got Cooler, fine, whatever. I want fucking Bojack. He was one of my favorites. Put in Bojack. Because he was strong, he made an impact, and fuck, his movie was actually one of the good ones. That's just me, I'm being biased, but there are people who do need to go. We don't need every single member of the Ginyu Force. We don't need Cybermen, we don't need Cell Jr., etc. Some of them need to go.
I like to point out how happy Super Saiyan 2 Goku looks like in this page. Look at that. Right next to Super Saiyan 3 Goku, he is so happy to be in this game. He's like, oh man, I'm glad my form got into this game. Yeah!
You might also argue that depending on what fights they do or don't include in story, that some Super Saiyan forms of characters aren't necessary either.
Super Saiyan 2 Adult Gohan? He's even in here.
Yeah. Also, Super Saiyan 2 Goku.
Actually, hang on. I don't even see base or Super Saiyan form Adult Gohan here. It just goes right from Super Saiyan 2 to Ultimate Gohan. And I like it, considering no one really used Adult Gohan outside of Ultimate Gohan. His moveset is just that shallow.
More than that, though, there's not even really a reason to be there. Give him one form of Super Saiyan to fight Deborah, if they even put that in there.
Yeah, right?
I've been saying this since maybe Tenkaichi 2, but a waste of space ultimately is Android 19. No one uses him, he sucks, he's terrible, even as far as androids go, get rid of him. You need Dr. Gero for a story point, so leave him, but get rid of 19. He doesn't need to be there.
I guess so. But he was kind of also one of the reasons why Goku was incapacitated for most of the Android saga. That and the heart virus, but he just only sped it up.
It doesn't need to be there. They're not going to do it. You remember that video I showed you of how they covered the Cell saga? They covered it from his base form appearing in front of Piccolo to the end of his fight with Trunks, all in one battle.
Don't mind me.
They're going to speed things up too much. I guarantee you, I'm placing my bets now. This entire story mode, less than 5 hours long.
Probably, yeah.
And that's saying something because, to my knowledge, Tenkaichi 3 story took about 6 hours.
6? Nah, not even 6 hours. I'm able to crunch through that thing in like maybe 24 parts, depending on the editing of the last few parts.
Yeah, each one times 15 minutes. Yeah. I know. Let me get my phone out just for the hell of it to calculate
about
that.
5.5 hours.
$360 minutes. Yeah, that's about... Actually, no, that's exactly 6 hours. But so, yeah, though, it's not even going to be that long, so that's, again, part of the thing that bothers me, is because it's going to be over too quick. Really, this roster, its bad story is going to be short. My only hopes for it is that its gameplay is going to be fucking fantastic. Well, because if it isn't, this game is from the looks of it already going to be a mess. You are kind of already
glossing over how they're kind of structuring the entire game story mode in a little bit of a different fashion at this time. It's going to be all about, and it's coming right from Wikipedia itself. It's going to be all about mission mode, which apparently is how they cover from Sand Saga to Majin Buu Saga. And they have apparently 3 new sagas called Another Age, Extra Age, and Special Age. I have no idea what any of those are, but they look to be pretty interesting.
Again, whether or not they're fun or interesting or different or not ultimately hinges on if the gameplay is good. Because if it's good, that'll make it playing worth just for that. People often say that the only reason you would ever play Ultimate Tenkaichi is for the few people that say the gameplay is actually really good.
Few.
Which is maybe 10% of the people. The other 90% say it's not worth playing because it has a crappy story, a crappy roster, and very bad, very annoying, very situational gameplay. So my biggest hope is that this game doesn't fall into those trappings. And mind you, I've played bits and pieces of Ultimate Tenkaichi, and it isn't terrible. It isn't as bad as the people say, but it's not on the level of Raging Blast 2, Burst Limit, or BT3.
It's still really oversimplified for what they were trying to go for. Which I can understand if you're trying to make it user accessible, but that's also detracting from the amount of depth you're going to get from something like BT3. Or shit, even Budokai 3.
Exactly. The problem is that it's too simple for what most people who had already played the previous games would call an overly complicated system, which it's really not. Wasn't.
You Z counter, you do melee attacks, and that's about it. I guess for the sheer amount of commands you have, maybe that qualify over complicated, but it's really not once you crunch it down to its bare numbers.
The problem with Ultimate Tenkaichi's gameplay is that it was a hybrid of Blast 2 with a mix of its own new stuff, and it didn't work trying to blend them together. If you're going to do something new, it has to be completely new.
And what to do with that? They made Dragon Ball Z Connect, because surely adding Connect to the equation will make it good.
It wasn't a completely terrible idea, it was just terribly executed. Yeah. On paper, a motion capture fighting game is a great idea. The problem is that they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything with it. It was terribly executed, and it was literally just a carbon copy of the story mode of Ultimate Tenkaichi, just with with motion controlled quick time
I think
events.
If you're gonna do something like that, they should have waited a generation until the Xbox One came out, so you can actually have kind of responsive controls going into it instead of the original Kinects, which is really unresponsive for about 90% of the games they tried to make for it. Except for the dancing games, because apparently that has a market now.
I've heard from a lot of people that just since yesterday alone, at least from what's already out, which includes Just Dance 2014, that the Kinect 2.0 was already pretty bad.
Really?
So,
man,
yeah,
all the technology, nothing to use it for. It's probably just the software people are trying to making it for.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing really up for it yet. It just launched,
Friday. Launch games usually don't last. Hell, I don't remember anyone who still talks about the launch games of the PS3 or... Gears of War is still a launch game for the 360, so I won't count that.
I don't even know what launched with PS3.
I think it was Heavenly Sword, and we all know how well that was. No jump button.
It was a launch game? That was a launch game?
Pretty sure it was.
God damn, that game was
right?
bad.
Where's the jump button?
Look, I think PS2. I've said this like 4 times, but I think PS2 launched with Final Fantasy X, so that's good. The only launch game for I can only think of 2 launch games for a system that ever actually made it quote unquote into history: Super Mario 64 and Super Mario World. Some of the best games of all time.
Crash Bandicoot.
That launched
it was
PS1
launched.
with it?
Yeah.
Huh. Still though, I'd say those 2 games.
Yeah, but that's gonna be a conversation for a different day. Back to Battle of Z. I really like how they're trying to take back the 3D style that actually made the Raging Blast games and BG3 to what they were today. A really, really solid fighting engine that is actually pretty good. Maybe removing Raging Blast 1 from that equation, but you know what I mean. It looks okay. I like how they're having a very chaotic sort of fighting system going for it with having 8 players on the screen at the same time. And considering they're bringing back the giant characters, I think that's the only adding on top of it. My only complaint is... Well, actually I have 2 complaints going into this. One, the effects on a lot of the attacks look really bland. Like, you've seen like the Final Flash being fired off in some of the gameplay trailers, and it just looks like a really... what's the word I'm looking for? It looks clipped, sort of. It doesn't look like it fits in the game very well. It looks very... two-dimensional. There's no substance going behind it. Like, everything in Raging Blast 2 look amazing. Here, it's like, it has no real shape to it.
Well, the reason for that, and there is a reason, is because with 8 characters or 5 characters or however many are on screen at once, you can't have things too highly detailed or too high in graphics. Otherwise, that is going to completely lag up the game like all hell. And I'm gonna go back to this probably a couple times, but for example, even in single player or offline modes, I'm gonna go back to Storm 3 for Madara. His attacks mixed with the Susanoo and mixed with random projectiles and the Deep Forest Emergence tree, all going off at once and all going off multiple times in the battle, lag the shit out of it for literally a 2-player game. Think how bad things like that would be with highly detailed and very pretty effects would be for an 8-player game going off at once on an engine this powerful or weak, we don't really know yet. For that matter, we don't even know how big the levels are going to be, so how far you're going to be able to drag that off.
I hear they're pretty massive, from what I'm told.
Additionally, I think it would also be pretty distracting to have so many things going off at once in other parts of the screen while you were trying to take out one enemy and probably running into other enemies at the same time. That was part of the problem I had with Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi Tag Team, was there were 4 characters on screen at once, and it was easy enough to deal with and play. More often than not, you're not going to end up hitting the character you want to hit because the camera fucks up and just auto-locks onto to whoever is closest rather than whoever you were actually intending to fight.
All right.
So they're going to need to fix a few things before it becomes completely playable. Just from what I've seen alone, but...
If they made this as a launch game for the PS4, I think that would have been a huge system seller because of how much power they got going on behind it. Although it is kind of it is still foreign territory, considering it is a launch game, so of course they're going to be experimenting the shit out of it.
If it had the power of the PS4, they would be able to do so much more with it. Fuck, like 16 or more characters. Easily. And fuck of a better roster.
The only other problem I have going into it right now with the gameplay is the camera angle. This is a problem that's plagued Raging Blast 1, Raging Blast 2 to an extent, but as easily rememberable. There was one other game. What was the problem? I don't remember what it was. I don't know. Whatever.
The problem with Raging Blast 1 and 2's camera is that there was no free control of the camera because it was located to the D-pad because all your specials were activated by using the right analog stick.
The D-pad did do something.
That was a problem. And that was a problem because that's the thing you need to use. You need your camera for to have full 360-degree rotational camera, so you can see everything going on at once. What I think they should have done for that is put all the attacks on the D-pad instead of the analog stick, so that way you're absolutely precise. Because more often than not, in Raging Blast 2 especially, you're going to end up hitting the wrong move or the one you didn't want to do because you hit the D-pad, the analog stick, in the wrong direction or slightly diagonal. So that was a bit of a problem there that I think could have easily been swapped by swapping commands.
And again, the camera angle itself isn't what's concerning me here. It's about the amount of carnage that's going on the screen at once. combined with the camera that by itself looked already pretty questionable. So with that going behind it and how large everything is being blown up for with 8 players at the same time, I think it's going to be really hard to keep up with everything on the screen at the same time.
Exactly, and that brings me back to the lag issue. With so much going on, such big environments, such pretty graphics, I guess, I can't really tell if these are good or not. I still think the high point is kind of Raging Blast 2. Kind of.
You really like those plastic models that much?
It's not that they were good, it's that the environments and everything behind them and around them were great to look at. You can't really count Ultimate Tenkaichi towards anything because their models were so jagged and ugly, they weren't even worth looking at.
That's why I was going to try to emulate right from the manga instead of just going with the source material.
I didn't even know that was what they did until Jared said so. I thought they were just trying some new style that was ugly.
I heard that's what they were doing beforehand. Although they also did try that with another game, Super Dragon Ball Z, and it looked passable, but it looked really bad for a PS2 game.
The problem is that it looked, or was basically trying to be, or not trying to look like, a full 3D Budokai with Budokai 3 with full movement, rather than just tapping the analog twice to go in the other direction, or to go sideways. It was just full frame of movement from Budokai 3's perspective. Which worked alright, but there's a reason why there's only one of that game.
Only one of Ultimate Tenkaichi?
No, only one Super Dragon Ball Z.
That's right. Well, on top of the fact that it didn't sell for shit when it was launched.
The problem is lack of marketing. The games like these nowadays get no marketing whatsoever.
No.
Like, you'll get the hardcore that will still buy them anyways, but there is no marketing for these games at all outside of playable demos at cons. There are trailers and stuff, but you never see commercials, you never see anything too hard for it.
No, there was a lot of marketing going to Dragon Ball Z Connect. Trust me.
There really wasn't. There were 2 trailers that were awful and a couple of banner ads, but outside of that, there was nothing for it. I never saw a commercial for it or anything.
I saw them a lot. But that's probably because I'm kind of their target audience too. So I had to hear the phrase "become a Super Saiyan" more times than I care to count. No, never lived that down because of it.
Ah, you remember that too?
That's hard to forget. Very hard to forget.
Honestly, that's why I'm glad for Battle of Z's promotion. They're actually using Chris Sabat, someone who's been with this franchise since 1998.
Yeah, that trailer with him doing the Yamcha voice is really intense. I like that.
That's probably the best thing you could do for Z games for fans. Be really loud, be really extreme, and promote all your supposed new features.
Yeah, that's how you go. That's how you get it done.
Because I've seen other trailers for other games that also have no marketing, that have just the most bored-sounding people ever. This is getting a little off topic, but take, for example, Sengoku Basara Samurai Heroes. Capcom did not market that game for shit. They had, 2 trailers, including the one that was on the game. They had another one with a guy who was explaining the various gameplay modes and things you could do with characters and whatnot, and he sounded so goddamn bored. Like, he was fucking asleep while he was doing that. Like, sleep-talking was how bored he sounded. That was part of the reason why that game didn't sell outside of lack of marketing. But basically, but that goes for basically everything, though. If you don't market it properly, it's not going to sell for shit.
Nope.
And frankly, I don't think this game is going to sell as well as people are hoping it will.
It probably won't, considering how this is also being released, with the PS4 out and everything. I don't think anyone's going to really go back to PS3 or 360 to pick something up like this up. So it's probably going to crash into marketing, but it'll still be pretty solid to get anyway.
I wouldn't go that far. The way my experience is with every time a new generation is released, that games outside of Nintendo systems, games tend to be released for previous systems up to maybe 2 or 3 years when that the next one is out before the really good ones really start hitting. Hence why, for example, PS4 is out already, but games like Persona 5 are announced for PS3 7 years into its lifespan. Because they don't want to jump into the next gen yet, because it's not going to be profitable for a while. There's no reason to jump into the future when when there's still the now to get money from. I could have said that so
much
better.
There's still ways that, well, no. That's still no guarantee that you're going to get any good profit off it, considering if you try to pour on both the PS3 and PS4, you're probably going to hit at least some target audience, but you probably won't be able to get a really solid engine if you try to do that. I think if you waited a year and then released this on the PS4, you'd probably be able to get a lot better reception through that.
Probably, yeah. I say if you're trying to start something new or trying to continue something good that has, if you're trying to start something new, give it maybe 2 years before doing it. If you're trying to continue something that's either good or rocky, give it at least 1 year before putting it out, so that way you can test the market.
Oh, a little off topic for a quick second. The guys who are making this called ArtDink, who I don't think they've really made any big games stateside, but apparently they're working on a Madoka Magica game right now. I just find it hilarious that the guys who are making a game like this, a giant 8-player over-the-top Dragon Ball Z game, are also working on a Magical Girl anime game. Hell, I'm probably going to get it if it comes stateside, but still.
It won't, but let's be hopeful.
True. Anyway, so there's a couple other things I want to cover about this game. First of all, the DLC, the day one shit, is completely fucking bullshit. I pray to God that... Alright, so for the guys who don't know about it, this game has day one pre-order stuff going for it, which is, if you get it on day one, it comes with Super Vegito and Super Saiyan Bardock. Now, for Super Saiyan Bardock, I can understand if you're making that day one, because, people...
You're forgetting one.
And it's kind of like... Well, I'll get to him in a sec. These are like the core ones.
Also, which reminds me, since there's a picture of it that I think I already sent you, put it up on screen now, the pictures of the DLC characters.
Yeah, I'll do that. So anyway, Super Saiyan Bardock I can understand because he's kind of like new. He's in the OVA, so he'd be a good selling point, I suppose, even though he was playable in Ultimate Connect, but the less we talk about Connect, the better, I suppose. Super Vegito? Fuck no. He's a core character, has been in all the games, basically, that's gone beyond the Buu Saga. So
he's been in every game outside of Burst Limit since Budokai 2.
Essentially, yeah. He's the only games he has been absent from, as far as I'm aware, is Budokai 1 and Burst Limit, and those only went up to the Cell Saga. So there's really no reason why you should cut out Super Vegito. If they make him down a little bit later, like I don't know, like a couple months after the fact, yeah, that'll be understandable, but it's still really bullshit that you have to make him an exclusive character for getting it pre-ordered.
And you know what the problem is? Like, the first couple of weeks that you see of online, because people are going to be using that more than anything, it's going to be so fucking overpowered, though.
I don't know. I don't know how we can classify shit as overpowered right now, considering we have...
highest damage output. Kind of like the password system from Raging Blast 1, or not password, the downloadable characters from that. They were the most overpowered things you'd ever seen.
Yeah, but this is for a character, not a super character.
I'm thinking it probably will be a super character, the equivalent of a Red Potara or something.
No doubts about that, considering we have Super Saiyan God Goku playable.
Yeah, but that's a regular character versus a fusion, and fusions generally are stronger in gameplay.
If we're talking about power levels, I think Super Saiyan God well eclipses Super Vegito.
Yeah. Technicalities. But that's not the point, though. The point is that if they're going to make DLC, they need to not just be pretty or just be good or new characters. They need to be worth using if you're going to pay for them after the fact or get the game at launch because of it. They need to be worth using. They need to handle well. They need to
not
be
even that. They also
really
need to be available later, so that way you're not missing a core character who's been in the series since God knows how long.
Exactly, and that brings me to another point of possible future DLC, free or paid for, because Raging Blast 1, all of their DLC was completely free.
I would not be against paying for characters, especially if they're worthwhile and they don't cost too much money, like maybe like $4 tops for one character, maybe. I
was gonna say maybe $1 or $2, but okay.
But if it's only just one character, then yeah, that's okay. If it's gonna be $4 like it was for, I think, a Streetcar Cross, I'm gonna try $4 per character. No, it was Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
That's Street Fighter anything really. Street Fighter or anything really will try to cost you $4 or $5.
Marvel 3 costs $5 per character.
My limit for spending money on extra characters or extra anything that isn't a bundle or a combo pack or something is maximum $2. That's the most I'm willing to spend on an extra character for a game like this. Which is why, for example, if Storm 3 Burst Limits DLC was just the boss battle and just Kabuto, for $10, there's no way in hell I would have bought that. That's why they made it into a combo deal that has, for people who didn't buy it already, all of the pre-existing DLC in addition to a Mission 100 mode. You make these things worth it.
So you want to make mention now to the other characters could be available via pre-order?
Well, it's already on the screenshot of the character select, but Sage Mode Goku. My hope for this is that it's not just a costume, and not what they did with Naruto's costume for Goku in Storm 3. There actually is a difference between regular Naruto and Naruto's Goku costume.
Yeah, his Rasengan changes.
Because of that change in his Rasengan, that is technically counted as an additional complete character. So, for example, if you're in team mode in Storm 3 and you pick Goku, Naruto, and say Minato or Jiraiya or Sasuke or whoever, it will say original. It won't say their team name, best friends, or father and son, or saints, or sage, or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. It actually counts it as an original character. So for this Goku, if they're going to do this, I want him to have some sort of different attack.
Does. Apparently his Kamehameha
Rasen Kamehameha.
Apparently his Kamehameha resembles the Rasengan a little bit in terms of how it's fired off.
Rasen Kamehameha, Kamehameha Shuriken, some shit. They need to do something
you just went
to
super
make
weeaboo level with that last one.
What?
Rasen Kamehameha. Oh man.
They need to do something to make it worth getting other than it just being pretty. That was the problem that everyone had with the DLC in Storm 3. It's pretty and that's it. It doesn't serve any purpose. I bought them anyways because, frankly, you can get all of it for under $10 anyways, so...
Why not? That's like how many costumes? Like 30?
40.
Damn. I thought I was exaggerating.
But yeah, though, if they're going to make these additional characters or additional costumes, they need to change the playstyle of the actual character itself.
Oh, and also, the special edition that's only coming out in Europe and Australia, son of a bitch, they're getting a fucking, 25 centimeter high Super Saiyan Goku figure, which I would pay for just to have that, fuck. And then it comes along with an art book, and according to this, costume DLC and privileged content with the developers team. Fascinating.
That happens a lot, actually. Europe gets the best of it, or mixed. I know I keep going back to it, but for example, for Storm 3, Europe had 2 different limited editions. A Will of Fire edition, which came with a a Naruto figure and some posters and something else, where I think the other one was called Hatred of the Light or some shit, which was a Sasuke edition, which had a Sasuke figure, some posters, and some other stuff. And the difference between that was that instead of Naruto, Sasuke was on the cover, and there was Pain and Madara and Toby and etc. Cool. So basically, there was a difference between them. On the other hand, if you were in the U.S. and you got the limited edition, you got all the posters, both figures, and the Goku DLC for literally $80, which basically means you're paying an extra $20 for 2 figures, posters, DLC, and etc. Which actually is an amazing deal because if this was any sort of AAA game, that would cost about $120
easily,
right there.
Yeah.
And my example to back that up is the collected edition of Tales of Xillia, which came with a what was her name? I forget if it was Mila or Milia Maxwell figure, which was I think 10 or 12 inches tall, which cost about $110. Yeah. In addition to the other stuff that was already in the regular collector's edition. But the point is, if they're going to do that, they need to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Yo. Waiting for you to get on something.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going.
But I guess, they need to make these things worth it, and they need to make it. They need to make you want it, basically. not just DLC stuff. Give extra actual collectibles, an art book, soundtrack, etc.
I wouldn't really
Which,
care
for the
about a
most
soundtrack
part,
if it wasn't worthwhile. Like the trailers actually presenting you with something decent to listen to. But for me, I get the limited edition just because of the art, the figure, and the day one exclusives.
well, hold on. I think we actually, since I brought up music, I think we need to delve into this now. Who's going to be composing for it, and what kind of music will it be? Because I think Connect also had remixed and reused music. The HD collection came with remixed and reused music. I don't know what music was used in Ultimate Tenkaichi. And then Raging Blast 2's music after the lawsuit was copied directly from Tenkaichi 2, whereas before the lawsuit it had its own music. So the problem we might face is what music they use. Are we going to have a new composer? Are we going to have the guy who was sued? Are we going to have the original,
I'm
etc.?
expecting we're going to have some remixes of the original Japanese soundtrack, considering we had a remix of Chala Hechala playing in the trailer, which I think is okay.
Well, no,
but...
I think that mix is just the opening in general. And I mentioned to you before, they stopped switching the music for English versions of the game by Tenkaichi 3. That was the last time they do that, so there is no difference between English and Japanese music. If they make a change, it's going to be for every version of the game.
I have my suspicions it's probably going to be the guy who made the Tenkaichi 3 soundtrack. I only say that on the basis that they switched the music in Raging Blast 2 to Tenkaichi 2 soundtrack, and I think it's the same guy. I think it's Junichi Masuda, if I'm not mistaken. No, he did the Pokemon soundtrack. Hang on a sec. I have it in here. I can't... What?
That's a hell of a mix-up.
Yeah, right. Well, Junichi Masuda, he also makes some hell of good music, so whatever.
Damn right
Let's
he does.
see. What do we got? I'm just going to check in my music folder right now, wherever it decides to load. Let's see. Tenkaichi 3. And I don't have a name. Fuck. Well, whatever. Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be that guy because I'm pretty sure he made Tenkaichi 2 set music, and when they redid Budokai 3 for the HD collection, they took out the original Budokai 3 soundtrack, which I suspect was another dude who did that, to a mix of Tenkaichi 2, Tenkaichi 3, Ultra Tenkaichi, Raging Blast, a whole bunch of different shit.
I think if it was done today, Raging Blast 1, they probably would have had their music switched too. I think the only reason they didn't is because the game had already been out for 2 years at that point, and it wasn't worth switching.
Am I just noticing that Hirudegarn has a giant mustache?
No.
Shit. I can't believe it took me this long to notice that. By the way, I'd like to mention this right now. What the fuck's with that? Back to the character select screen. What is up with that little blank space right at the bottom of the screen? The little blank spot right in the bottom of the screen between Super Saiyan God Goku and Naruto outfit.
My guess is that when you first get the game, though, there's not going to be slots there. You're going to have to do special conditions to get those there, and those are going to be the 3 special characters. The reason why these slots for the DLC characters are different is because they're not going to be there at all unless you get the DLC.
Well, when you have Sage Mode Goku...
No, I know what you're saying, though. The space between them, but my guess is when you first get the game, and you first go into character select, those slots are not going to appear at all until you do complete story or do whatever to make those slots appear.
I know. The green ones, right?
No, the both of them. The DLC ones aren't going to appear unless you get the DLC. So in the version of the game where you're probably going to get, they're not going to be there at all, the green slots, but the blue ones there at the bottom, the one for the Battle of Gods ones, are probably not going to appear there either. I guess there's a spot between them to differentiate.
I guess so, but that just...
Or that...
someone...
Or maybe that's where they'll put random or something.
I suppose, but as someone who plays the fighting games a lot, I'm used to seeing just a blank spot and just screams to me, just something could be added there later. I just can't tell what.
My guess is that if they're going to add anything to it outside of what's already here, they're going to do it the full burst way by putting Sage Kabuto's character slot above the character selection of everyone else. Seriously, his character select button is literally on top of everyone else's.
Right. That's always a good touch.
And it's as wide as 3 slots.
Well, whatever that ends up being, I'm sure it's going to be something, I guess.
I still hold that it's just going to be random.
I like how the roster screen on the wiki itself says Adult Gohan is only in Super Saiyan 2 form and Ultimate Gohan. That's reassuring.
I don't see it.
It's right next to the picture of Super Saiyan God Goku right there. The final impression I have going into Battle Z, which, frankly, I think it took him fucking long enough to do something like this. Being able to edit costumes on characters. Not like original character creations, but like something more of what Tekken does with being able to edit. Maybe not like what they wear or like specifically like mixing Goku's Yarda outfit with his regular outfit, but like just being able to change the color itself just feels so empowering. I like this. This is cool. We can finally edit Goku with some pink and white clothes, make him look really gay. I can make my communist Goku with red and yellow colors. I can make my dildo cell. Yeah.
Beautiful.
What? I'm going to be finding people online with fucking dildo Frieza and dildo cell. I don't care.
If you look at second form Frieza, I'm pretty sure he already is a dildo. Spiked.
Wait, are we talking about third form Frieza here?
Second form. The head with the horns.
Oh. I don't know. I'd say more the third one with the xenomorph look on him.
Regardless, I feel like this is going to be heavily restricted. They're not going to give you nearly as much as you want. At most, a color change, but outside of that, not really much. For Goku, I feel like you're only going to be able to use one costume at a time, and it's just going to be selecting or creating all of the costumes he's already variously had in other ones, like Tenkaichi 2, where he has 6 different costumes of the same thing. I don't know about that,
because if you look at the screen itself, it looks like it's pretty in-depth with how you're able to customize his colors.
Send me it.
Sure. Intermission time, folks. There you go.
Let's see. Yeah. Well, nice that they at least let you have 3 or change.
Well, look at this. You can customize not only like you can customize his shoes, you can customize the 2 primary colors on him. Wait. I think there's a picture for Cell where you can get really in depth with that shit. Hang on. I need to go look for this.
Individual items are nice, but I think judging from this, it probably will just be colors.
I'm pretty sure everyone's gonna be running around with full black outfits online. Really, let's be honest here.
Probably, yeah. You really can't get over that lack of creation in Storm 3 mods, can you?
Although there are some cool ones popping up now.
What? Good thing it only took them like 3 weeks. Regardless, I don't think we're going to see much here outside of individual color changes. Making Goku look like he's wearing Namek stuff here is quite nice, though. Although in this picture, his hair is particularly high, so might be hair changes too.
That'd be nice, I suppose. As long as he can get a Yardra outfit, I can have some fun with that one, because that's like my favorite Goku outfit.
I think that's everyone's favorite Goku outfit. It is like the best costume he's ever had.
He wore it for 2 episodes, and now it's it. But it's a damn shame, but what can you do?
You know, an idea just hit me. Do you think this game should be cross-buy?
Buy on the Vita, buy on the PS3?
Yeah, cross-buy, cross-play.
I think that'd be nice, but that means the 360 is just kind of sitting there with like, what the hell do we get? You don't have a Vita, so fuck you.
The 360 is a bad console in general, but that's neither here nor there. Regardless, I think this would be a good idea because it'd be nice to have a fighting game like this on the go. Have 8 people fighting on 8 Vitas at once.
Yeah. I just hope the internet on the Vita would be powerful enough to be able to support something like that.
And just because it's obligatory, if even 8 people own Vitas, which I want one.
Dropping in price. Shit, you should get the one that's got the micro USB on it.
Nice.
Yes, I totally want that Vita console that's coming out in Japan. I want to come stateside so I can record Vita games. Fuck yeah.
What games would you even get for that?
I got Dragon's Crown.
You actually finally got some games for it?
I thought I already told you I have Dragon's Crown on it. It's pretty good. I just don't play a lot because I'm not much of a portable gamer outside of Pokemon.
You really need to jump on that X and
Yeah,
Y.
I know. I'll get there eventually. Anyway, I don't think there's anything else I really need to talk about. Oh no, the fucking models on the characters. I am super spoiled on this. On the one hand, the models look really nice. They look kind of similar to Raging Blast 2, except now they have more personality to them and they're not super fucking shiny. But on the other hand, my god, fucking Metacooler's head is so bizarre. And on top of that, like, there's a screenshot with like Kid Gohan. God damn, his head is so circular.
Also, if you look at some close-ups of some characters in battle or in cutscenes, I still don't think this team quite understands the concept of things being round rather than being polygonal. Like, you can look at a close-up of 17's hair and it's not fully round. There are still jagged polygon rectangles in it.
Essentially, yeah.
And just think, that's a person with straight hair. Think of how that's going to be for the Super Saiyans.
Oh man, Super Saiyan 3 Goku. Well, no, Super Saiyan 3 Goku actually does look pretty good with the way his hair is done. It actually looks like it flows like it does in the show.
Oh, I was hoping for some Budokai 3 shit up in here. Seriously, though, look at Super Saiyan 3 Goku from Budokai 3. It's the most glorious thing you've ever seen.
No, I can top that. Look up a mod for Super Saiyan 3 hair in Budokai 3. It literally clips through the floor, it clips through our back, it clips through everything. Mods do not know how to animate hair very well. But then again, I suppose that's kind of what coming to territory in a game where you can't really mod that shit to begin with.
Quite.
Yeah. Oh well.
Budokai 3 has some fun ones. But anyways, any other things to talk about for the roster?
Roster itself, it covers the essentials of the show. Looks like it goes a little over Raging Blast 1 minus the Super Saiyan 3 Broly and Vegeta, which I missed. Those were really cool ideas.
I could swear that I bet that those things are going to be in there, just secrets or unlockables or
okay,
something.
we have Super Saiyan 3 Gogeta, we have Super Saiyan 3 Trunks, we have Super Saiyan 3 GT Trunks, which should never be a thing, by the way.
Excuse
Super
me?
Saiyan 3 GT Trunks. Oh, I haven't shown you that, have I? Dude,
I have.
Fucking card game in Japan has been going nuts with gaming character Super Saiyan 3 hair.
Jesus.
Super Saiyan 3 Future Trunks I can maybe understand, but GT Trunks? Nah, he should never be anything above Super Saiyan.
He shouldn't be Super Saiyan
Yeah,
at all.
he shouldn't even be a thing.
He needs a little androids in his life.
But then again, GT is kind of just Goku the second season, so what can you do?
Yeah.
I think we should have an entire podcast dedicated to our review of GT.
Yes. Although I think we'd be going for 4 hours on that one.
Oh, easily, yeah. I'm going to need new headphones for that one. Shit. Good thing this is bi-weekly so I can get my full thoughts together.
Quite. Which reminds me, actually, on the topic of characters, I knew this was going to come around eventually, and it's probably the only reason a lot of people are going to be getting these games. What do you think of the Battle of Gods characters? How do you think they're going to handle all three of them?
I'm not sure. Although I do think it's kind of weird how these guys actually have English dubs, whereas they still can't make the movies have dubs for a long time.
The games have to have them for the characters. Fuck, the Tarble Yosan Goku and his friends Return never came out in America, and they
Tarble had a voice. Hachiyak had a voice, kind of.
Hachiyak doesn't really count for anything, though. He's just a growl grunt character.
He says Sans once or twice, Broly, and that's it. Yeah, he's basically Broly. Although, no, I cannot say that about Broly because I went back to watch the full fight in the first movie. He does have some decent lines. He actually does communicate with people in his legendary Super Saiyan form.
And yet it's gone by Broly's second coming.
Yeah, basically. Broly's second coming, well, he was kind of locked underneath ice for 7 years, so... what can you do?
I forgot how that movie worked.
I went back and watched them again. They're really not impressive.
A lot of them really aren't. There's only maybe 3 or 4 good ones.
And then Bio Broly was just amazing with how much it sucked.
That was the worst thing there ever was. People hate that more than... Actually, people hate that more than the movies that no one even gives a shit about or even knows existed.
GT: A Hero's Legacy?
That too, actually,
yep.
But... Like there's maybe 2 or 3 movies that no one even knows existed because either they came in at the wrong time or they were just too early. Nobody knows that World's Strongest exists or what happens in it. It wasn't even a particularly bad movie. It's just that people care less about Bio Broly than they do about that movie.
What was the other one no one knew about?
I'm trying to think here. Because I know it wasn't Dead Zone because people knew about Dead Zone.
Well, Dead Zone was like pre-DBZ. It was like the thing leading into it.
I'm trying to think what it was here. I think it might have been probably Lord Slug.
Yeah, because that's like when I was growing up as a kid, that had like no advertisement going for it whatsoever. Even though it did have, I'm surprised, it had this Stupefied by the Disturbed playing in it, so I assume it had more advertisement. Nope. Yeah, and they advertised the shit out of Cooler's Revenge with having a large amount of rock songs in there.
Hell, I even remember Tree of Might. I actually remember watching that on TV as that was airing for the first time under Ocean.
Yeah, Ocean Knows was fantastic for that movie. Also, I like how they're very inconsistent with pronouncing Kaioken, even the Ocean Knows. Ocean Knows originally they pronounced Kaioken, then later they call it Kaioken. Well, actually, no. It was, what was it? World's Strongest. The guy who voiced Goku at the time called it Kaioken. In the show, it's called Kaioken. Now in stateside, in all the movies, in original release, it was Kaioken. And now in Kai, it's called Kaioken again.
Because Kaioken is the way it's supposed to be, because they are the Kais, they are not the Ks.
Exactly. So they went from the right pronunciation in like one movie to the wrong pronunciation to the right pronunciation once again. I'm going to keep saying Kaioken, just because I like pissing people off, and that's how I always said it. Yeah.
I'm a stickler for getting things accurate, people. I think I've made that point well enough in the past.
Hayden.
I have, but...
No, I said Hayden.
Yeah. When we get to a game that actually says his name out loud, I'm going to punch you. One of the games that does. They actually say their name.
Yeah, I said Hayden multiple times in that, and you're just so pissed off.
Regardless,
good times.
Not having seen it yet and not having anything to compare it to, how do you think the Battle of Gods characters are going to play?
I'm not sure what to compare Bills to. He looks like he'd be sort of like a Frieza playstyle. Super Saiyan God Goku, I have no idea.
Which form? Which form of Frieza?
Final form. Before beefing the shit out of him. Super Saiyan God Goku, I'm not sure how he would play, except I know he has Red Kamehameha Wave.
Times 10!
Times 10! Ah!
You know that was never actually a thing that was used? They never actually used it.
What do you mean?
There was never actually a times 10 Kamehameha in GT.
Well, they never named it, but he did sort of... He used a Red Kamehameha Wave, and he used a Kamehameha Wave that combined the two. So it was just kind of like in the games they named it. It's like how Vegeta never really used Big Bang Attack, but it was only named in the games.
Lovely.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, come on, fusing two energy balls together to make a Red Kamehameha Wave? How fucking cool can that be? Oh wait, it's the most powerful beam in BT3. How about that shit?
Quite. Still, though... Well,
that last guy, I have no idea what to think about him.
Bills, I think he has a cane or something, or a staff.
No, not Bills, the blue guy, the white hair.
Whis. His name is Whis.
I thought it was... I don't know, it's... Whis, Whis.
It's spelled Whis, but it's pronounced Whis. Oh. But, so he has a cane, so I think with that cane he might kind of handle the same way Sword Trunks does.
I assume so. Or maybe like Bobbity. That'd be hilarious.
God, no. Bobbity just wills his crystal ball to hit people.
Basically. That's the funny part.
He actually physically holds the cane.
Oh, and looking at this right now, it just dawned on me. One of those last three... actually, no, I'm willing to bet those middle three slots that aren't filled yet are probably going to be Gotenks.
All three
probably.
of them? No, I actually read on the page that it confirms that it's just regular Gotenks and Gotenks Super Saiyan 3. There is no Super Saiyan or Super... Yeah, there is just no Super Saiyan Gotenks.
Huh. Okay.
Which at that point is pretty stupid because He never actually did anything in regular form, so it should just be Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks.
Kinda. He did sort of fight Super Buu in base form, but that was just for, like, he was dumb. Really dumb.
That was for comedic effect, and that was anime only, so yeah, it should just be Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks.
Yeah, I guess so.
People can argue things about characters for the Buu arc, but then I tell them that the Buu saga was 75% filler, so whatever you're talking about probably never actually happened.
What
I
parts
actually
of it
have
were filler?
made that case to people. What?
It was 75% filler? Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Most of Goku's fight with Majin Buu, 90% of Goku's fight with Majin Vegeta, etc. Most of that was entirely filler.
Well, I do know
and
he didn't fight
you
Super Saiyan 2. I know he jumped right to 3. What else was there? That was kind of filler. That's all that comes to mind.
Also, regular Gotenks never saw Majin Buu.
Yeah.
He never saw him until he was thin in the time chamber.
That's awesome.
And even then, when he was in the time chamber, he jumped directly into Super Saiyan.
Okay.
But that's a point for another day. As for Goku, because it basically looks like Kaioken, my guess is they're probably not going to give him very many of his Super Saiyan attacks.
Probably not.
My hope is that they don't give him instant transmission Kamehameha. I hope they don't, because Raging Blast and Ultimate Tenkaichi gave him that move in every form he has.
Was it Ultimate or a Super?
It was a Super in all of them.
Shit.
But the point, though, is that give that an ultimate or a move or something for one form, but don't have it for all of them. My hope that I know they're not going to do is give him an entirely new moveset to differentiate him from the other 4 existing forms of Goku. I know they're not going to, but it's my biggest hope.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Battle of God, so I can't comment on how Bills and Whis handle.
I'm waiting for it to someday come out in English subs before I watch it. Someday.
There are animated cutscenes in Battle of Z, which we should mention are regular cutscenes as well as openings and etc. that are anime style. They appear in some of them, and they are dubbed in some of them. My hope is that if Battle of Gods is on the game, that it's fully dubbed, or it's counted as a cutscene to the game, so they can dub it.
Oh, that'd be great.
Because there are loopholes. They can work around. Funimation is just not smart enough to do that. Because there are loopholes in the ways that they could technically have plan to eradicate the Saiyans in Raging Blast 2. They just weren't. They were just too stupid and didn't do it.
Like how they can't release it in a DVD format, but they can release it in dubs in the game?
Yeah, if you count that as a cutscene and not as its actual separate thing, they could, via legal matters and loopholes, have dubbed it.
I guess they didn't do that because of profits.
Yeah. Part of the problem is that Funimation, when it comes to dubbing and not dubbing things, are particularly lazy and cheap on a lot of things.
Balls.
Like when it comes to extras on a DVD or a Blu-ray of an anime, they just won't do it. They'll be lazy like that and just put it subbed.
Sounds like them, alright. So, any closing thoughts for Battle of Z?
It needs to... I know I've been really negative about it a lot, because...
You've just been really skeptical, but I can understand that because of the past few games we've had.
I still think... Well, technically there's only one game... There are only 2 games of the last 4 that were actually bad, or... Well, no, technically only one of them was bad. One of them was different, and the other 2 were relatively good. And they've all played different, and so is this one. My only hope is that it handles better than previous ones, or at least handles well on its own merit, without people comparing it to Tenkaichi 3 or Blast 2 or Ultimate or whatever. It needs to handle well on its own, and it needs to have its own identity. Because Raging Blast 1 has no identity of its own.
No.
It's either that thing that's a pretty Tenkaichi 3 or that thing that's an ugly Raging Blast 2. It has no identity of its own. And that's the same problem that Connect has, because it had less than 0 identity as just being Ultimate Tenkaichi for Connect.
And Ultimate Tenkaichi had not a lot of identity to begin with, so that's a problem.
It had one, it's just no one liked what it was.
Yeah, true. That blows.
And this game has already lost its identity to Zenkai Battle Royale, but no one can say anything about it yet because no one's played that game because it's Japanese arcade exclusive. So this game,
I love how that's only Japanese arcade exclusive. It's like they don't want to make money on it.
Because it's an arcade game, people think if you just have to pay a quarter for something, it's not going to work. Arcades in America hardly exist anymore.
Yeah, right?
Though that's been going down since the early 90s.
Basically. The last major arcade game I could think of was Street Fighter 4, and that's about it.
Does that even really count?
I guess. Well, it was an arcade game before it came onto consoles.
Really?
I don't know if Soul Calibur 4 had one, but anyway, that's another conversation for another day. My final thoughts for this game: the gameplay needs to be solid. The camera needs to be tweaked a little so it can hopefully handle 8 players fighting at the same time.
You need to have free control of the camera. Free control.
And as far as small shit goes, I like how Adult Gohan's his own character now in Super Saiyan 2. They have some of the core characters. It doesn't look like they're missing anyone too vital. My only... just give, for the love of Christ, give Super Trunks some new moves. Don't make Explosive Wave again.
Didn't they have a different one in Raging Blast 2 or Ultimate Tenkaichi?
Nope. Ultimate Tenkaichi was all relegated to just Sword Trunks. Raging Blast 2, it was still Explosive Wave.
They need to give him one smashing attack. Really, that's all you need.
They kind of did in Raging Blast 1, but it was so poorly done you couldn't be able to identify it.
Because he didn't really do much actual fighting.
Yeah, well, what the fuck are you talking about? He was like all over the place in the Perfect Cell fight. And on top of that, there was also the movies, and the movies don't reflect what the hell regular Trunks did.
Because he was only in 2 movies. And in one of those movies, he got his ass beat pretty instantly, and in the other one, he only had like 1 fight in it, and he didn't even go to Super Trunks until the end of that fight to strike the finishing blow.
Bojack.
Broly.
No, he didn't actually. He did slay one dude in the Bojack movie, and that was pretty cool. He did hold his own in that movie better than Broly.
Quite. The reason I think they should go for Bojack for multiple things is fight inspiration. Characters did a lot of things they don't normally do in that movie. Trunks, he had an awesome attack in the way he finished off that opponent. He punched directly through. He punched a hole in that guy. Give him that attack for an ultimate or a special or a blast 2 or something. Give him that attack where he punched right through a guy by transforming in the process.
Yeah, pretty much. It doesn't even have to be transformation. It could just be a regular counter super in base form. Or not base form, super form.
Indeed.
Beyond that, give for the love of God, give him new outfits, seriously.
That, more than anything. Another idea I've been toying around with, which I know we're never going to get in any game or any fighting game series at all, is transformation attacks. Like, do an attack that causes your character to transform. And I'm not talking about, like, Ultimate Spirit Bomb or anything, or if you're going to do a Spirit Bomb attack like that, have him stay transformed. An attack that transforms in the process.
Budokai 3.
Did it?
Yeah, when you dropped the Super Spirit Bomb, he stayed in Super Saiyan after you did it.
Well, outside of games like that, outside of pre-existing games.
Shin Budokai Another Road, when you drop a Spirit Bomb in any form, you go right into that form. Like, you could transform to Super Saiyan 4 while you're doing a Super Spirit Bomb, and then you'll be in Super Saiyan 4. Which is why Shin Budokai had a lot of good ideas, but hell, he never found its way into the games. First one doesn't count. Other improvements I could see for give Super Saiyan 2 Teen Gohan the Goku outfit, because that's like the sickest thing he could be wearing. Man, I don't know. Maybe give Ultimate Gohan the Kai outfit, but that's getting into really small shit.
Basically give the small shit. Give characters every costume they've ever had, or add extra forms or whatever. Because people don't know this. There were rumors back in 2011, right after the release of Ultimate Tenkaichi, that a new game is rumored and secret, and it's coming out in the next couple of years. And this is either going to be the final game or the biggest game of all time.
Oh, yeah.
And this was back in 2011. If this ends up being this, it needs to be as big as fucking possible if it's going to be the biggest game or the final game.
Yeah, fuck. We already did a podcast on what you can do to make that the biggest game possible. as far as that goes, I really don't see this being the last DBZ game. I think they still have a few more shots left in them because of the movies that are actually coming out that would probably promote them.
The problem I think with this is that this is tied in too directly with Battle of Gods. That's another thing that makes it not have its own identity. People are going to get it for that, but once the fandom for Battle of Gods dies out in probably a year or so, no one's going to care. No one's going to come back to this the same way they come back to Tenkaichi 3.
Probably not. No, which is a damn shame because this looks like it has a lot of potential.
Another thing I'm worried about is how this game is going to handle alternate modes. Is there going to be a tournament mode? Is there going to be survival or ultimate battle or anything like that? Is it just
60 missions for a story?
Nature is predictable.
Sick. What was that?
It isn't really much of anything when you consider previous games.
Fuck, Raging Blast. I got an ad playing.
What?
I had an ad playing. I heard an explosion in the background. I was like, what the fuck was that?
Lovely. I think people complain a lot about Raging Blast 2's story, which was no story, just basically the equivalent of an arcade mode for every character, equaling out to about 500. It wasn't a bad idea, but it was too long. If they're going to handle something... The problem with the people have with story modes is either it's doing the same thing every time, and we want something different, but when they got Raging Blast 2, they complained that it was different, and it wasn't the story mode. And
that's because the fans are indecisive little pigs.
Exactly. So now they're getting this after that, and the problem is they're making the story too short by summarizing entire arcs into single fights. And I think that's going to be a problem because if what ifs make up 2/3 or 1/3 of that 60 fights, that's going to be a problem.
I'm split on that one because you can have a good game, really get in depth with the story mode. Like, I suppose Budokai 3 can kind of fit that criteria, but it's not just as in depth as Tenkaichi 2. But that's on different mechanics entirely. You can have a good story mode, cover a lot of the stuff, and still be really manageable at the same time. You just have to make the gameplay intuitive enough to last the entire experience and not get boring and drawn out.
That actually brings me to another point. We haven't seen anything...
You're full of points tonight.
What? No, believe me, from what we have so far, if this ends in the next 10 or 15 minutes, this will be the shortest podcast we've ever done.
And we're on the second one, too.
3, technically, but we'll share that story another day.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, though... Fuck, what was I talking about? I forgot.
You were going on a point. And I just mentioned something about story mode having good gameplay.
Oh, yeah. We need to get a demo, an actual PSN or Xbox Live demo of this game soon before it comes out. Because we need to find out if the gameplay on this is good enough to keep coming back to it, even to finish the story mode. If this game isn't going to have any replay, because they're touting online as the best thing. But we need to know if it's fun enough in single player for it to be fun online. And people say about how...
If they do that, I am definitely doing a first impressions of that with live gameplay. I'm going to be all over that bitch.
Indeed.
Well, Omega 2040 probably won't be, so I might as well.
He hasn't said anything about this. The last time he said anything about the early of a game is on Ultimate Tenkaichi, and
no, he did do an initial impression of this game, but that was like a long time ago.
I don't think he's done anything at all since Generations.
He did, just like one quick 2-minute video about this game, though.
Still, that's not enough. When his ones for Ultimate Tenkaichi were like 6-7 minutes long. Yeah. Regardless,
it's like he doesn't want views.
It's like he doesn't want people to know he exists anymore.
Yeah, right.
Still, though, I think this game, we need to find out how good this game is, or even if it's worth buying, because the roster doesn't say anything when the only new characters we have are 3, and that's going to be most people's reason for buying. Outside of those 3 characters, we need to know if it's good enough to be worth buying, worth paying 60 or 50 or 40 bucks on. Because if it's not worth playing in the first place, or if it's the same as all the other ones, then people aren't going to get it outside of Battle of Gods, and then once they do that, they'll return it in 3 days.
Essentially, yeah. Although with the way the multiplayer is being touted for, it looks like that's going to well make up for it.
Trailers and actuality are not the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I'm not just necessarily talking about the trailers. I'm talking about everything we've been shown so far.
Quite, but...
And considering how good Namco has been lately with how they run online modes, that seems to be promising.
What games are you talking about?
I'm talking about anything like Tekken Tag Tournament 2, Soul Calibur 5. Ultimate Tenkaichi did have a good online mode. It was just that was the only thing that game was good for.
Its online was good?
His online was pretty solid, yeah. But again, that's what they kind of carved the game around, so the rest kind of suffered because of it.
I suppose.
This game looks like it's building more around the gameplay first, then the online, and then the rest of it.
Story is probably going to come last as far as this game goes. That's why they're cramming
Pretty
so
much.
much into so few battles.
Mm.
Like, you look at all 4 forms of Cell, they appear, I shit you not, in one single fight in this game.
Doesn't that fight take like 45 minutes too?
From what we saw from that one trailer, it took like 8 minutes.
Oh shit, I need to go back and watch it again. Huh.
And that concerns me too, is how long is story going to be? You can say 60 missions, but that doesn't really mean anything if the individual fights aren't very long.
Yeah.
Because you want something that's going to last. I want to see how they're going to handle the Frieza battle, because you know they're going to have to break that up into 2 fights because there's 5 forms and not 4, and how long that first battle is going to be. Is it going to be like...
And also that stage transition between Namek and Namek Destroyed.
Which brings me to another point. Are they going to be able to have destructible stages? Because I don't think Ultimate Tenkaichi had them.
I don't know if any games lately have had destructible stages. Did Raging Blast 1 have any?
No.
I don't think BT3 has.
No, BT3 did.
I think.
It just didn't have very many.
Well, if it does, I haven't seen any yet. I've been playing the game like for months now, and I haven't blown up one stage. Once.
You were just bad at this game. Raging Blast...
Apparently, the game does not want me to blow shit up. It's a shame, because I always blew stuff up in Budokai 3 and Tenkaichi 2.
You know what's funny is Budokai 3 actually had the most explodable environments of everything.
It did, yeah.
Every game. Any random attack can do it. Also, their effects for some of them were really pretty.
Easily. Especially like the Spirit Bomb one. That was crazy. It just tore a giant crater in the planet.
The father-son Kamehameha one, that was beautiful.
The beam ones? Yeah,
the
beam
one
ones
that
were
went
okay.
sent off flying into outer space.
Yeah, those are something else.
They need a lot of the series staples. They need to have destructible environments, pretty environments, etc., things like that. And they need to have attacks that look good enough and strong enough to be able to destroy a planet. Like you were saying about that final Flash, that attack would never be able to do that because it doesn't look like it has nearly as much of an impact for it.
No.
Which actually reminds me, impact of attacks, that's going to be a part of the problem, because the first problem that I ever had with the Raging Blast series is that all of the attacks, the punches, the everything, they completely lacked impact. Everything. All the rushes, all the button mash ones, all the ultimates, etc. All the attacks, everything, they've not had any impact or weight to their hits since Tenkaichi 3.
Yeah, Tenkaichi 3 is where they really ramped up the screen shake on a lot of the moves. It kind of bothered me at first, but...
That crack when you punch through someone's stomach was amazing.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that's something that also is important, how the game is going to sound, what sound effects they're going to use. Because I know that this is an odd example, but to this day, I think one of the best sounding games is the Naruto Clash of Ninja series, because they have the best sound effects in games I've ever heard. Some of them.
Oh yeah, playing as Orochimaru, you'll be able to feel like you're just tearing holes in someone in Clash of Ninja 2.
Exactly. Their slash sounding effects are some of the... They're like music to my ears.
Oh, hell yeah.
But so yeah, it needs to sound good. The attacks need to have impact. They need to have weight. You need to get close-ups or screen shake or whatever. Also, show the look in the other person's eye when they're being hit.
Yeah.
Also, something I really want to see. When was the last time you watched the fight of 17 versus Piccolo?
Like a week ago, I think.
Lovely. So you know how in the original Z version that went on for a long time, and they were punching each other in the stomach at that one part where it looked like their fist was actually going to come out of their stomach. I want to see.
And the first time 17 threw that punch, he literally broke the speed of light.
Yeah, like that. I want to see things like that in a game. I want to see that being impacted.
Oh, dude, yeah, definitely. You can get so creative with the amount of effects you can throw into this game. such as first form cells like pseudo Kaioken, the crazy lighting effects it had on Trunks when he was powering up the super form, maybe the Final Flash itself, a lot of the crazy charge effects that Cell and Gohan had when they're like first in perfect form in Super Saiyan 2. There was a lot of crazy shit they did with that. But I think that's really getting to more superficial stuff with all this.
Well, you need to get into me.
Even then, it's still good fan service, and I think fan service is really what's going to keep fans coming back to this, or at least like keep a smile on their face.
Fan service is really the one thing you come for in modern DBZ games, because regular fans of fighting games don't care like at all about the DBZ games. Fans come back to them out of loyalty because, for the most part, they're good games. But you need to add more fan service to each game to keep them coming back to it, so that it's not the same thing every time. You need to have the games...
Well, I'll argue that with saying that Budokai 3 and Storm 3 did a really good job with bringing fans outside the series into the game.
What was the second?
I hear that's a lot of people actually got into it.
What was the second one you said?
Storm 3.
Oh, yeah. Well...
Yeah, that's like really balanced, and I heard it made rounds in tournaments.
Storm 3?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, dude, I heard that was in tournaments.
It's news to me. But
you want to know what's really surprising that has tournaments? Clash Ninja Revolution 3.
That I can believe, because that is like the most balanced game in that series. And whether or not it's fancy advertising or not, it is one of the best fighting games on Wii.
It really is, outside of Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, and if you want to call a fighting game, Smash Brothers.
Smash Brothers, and to an extent, Tenkaichi 3.
Yeah, true. Although,
no, the Wii version of that game was better than the PS2 version.
Really? How so?
It's gonna sound stupid, but they made motion controls actually work well.
Ah, splendid. I think BT2 was a launch game for the Wii, wasn't it?
No. Well, no, I don't think so.
It was in the launch window for sure, like 2006, 2007?
It was a 2006 game, because Tenkaichi 3 came out in 2007. Which...
Didn't the Wii come out in like 2005?
What?
Didn't the Wii come out in like 2005 or something like that?
I think it came out around October-ish of 2006.
You know, in hindsight, the 7th generation of consoles was like probably the shortest, wasn't it?
Actually, people are saying it's one of the longest, because if we get into next year with 360, the 360 will have been around for 9 years.
Oh no, I didn't mean the 7th. I meant the 6th.
Kind of. Well,
I mean, the heavy hitters that only really stuck around from like 2001 to 2005. 2005 is where the 360 dropped.
It's funny because the original Xbox games completely stopped after that. But basically, yeah, though.
Blind there was anything to begin with.
Indeed. GameCube lasted until roughly early 2007, because Nintendo could never keep a good thing going until about a year after their next one drops. Then they completely give it the axe. The Wii is completely stopping production in January.
Which I'm surprised it's managed to go this long without transitioning to the Wii U. Even though I say that despite the PS2 only recently stopping production.
The The PS2 stopped production January 2013. The PS2 ran from... was it 2000 or 2001? I think...
2000... Yeah, 2000 because it was the PS2 that kind of killed the Dreamcast.
The PS2 lasted from 2000 to 2013. It lasted...
Into the tail end of this generation.
It lasted... Well, production. Games didn't really... kind of stopped coming in by about 2010.
Yeah, they were sparse from 2008 onwards.
No, I'm going to go with 2010 because great games like Persona 4 came out in 2009.
Oh, yeah. Wow, really?
So,
I thought Persona 4 was like 2006.
Nope. Persona 3 was 2006.
Oh, wow, shit.
But yeah, PS2 lasted quite a long time. GameCube lasted about 6 years, and Dreamcast, I think, is actually probably the third best system in that generation. Lasted literally a year. I think 2 years.
Yeah, it lasted a year. It was the shortest lived, but also probably one of the best consoles of all time, too. It's so weird how that works.
You know what's funny? That game had online 8 years before online was popular.
It did, even though I think... What's the dial-up? It had been broadband.
No, it'd be dial-up because broadband wasn't really a popular thing in the year 1999.
That's true. Phantasy Star Online, though. Holy fuck. Waiting for Phantasy Star Online, too. Anyway, I think before we start getting on tangent about other consoles to begin with, because that's what we're talking about before we fire this up. Yeah, final thoughts. I think Battle Z holds potential, but it needs to hold onto its focus.
Exactly.
Like, it's all about the 8-man gameplay. Keep it about the 8-man gameplay. Don't, like, start delving into, like, oh, it's all about this, or it's all about this. It's all about all the shit we can do with it. No, just keep it about the core. That's all, and build around it.
Their 8-man gameplay is the biggest thing they're touting, but that comes with one flaw. They need to make, again, the gameplay be amazing, and they need to make sure that enough people buy into this game. They need to make the online solid, because if you're going to tout your biggest feature as online, not only do you need to have not only do you need to have the most stable network or servers or whatever, but you need to make sure that there's a reason for 8 people to be online at one time. You need to make it.
There's also one other thing I need to mention. There's one more thing I gotta mention. Give enough modes outside of online for people who run only single player to enjoy.
That's what I've been saying for about 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I just said just now. Okay, so that's going to wrap it up for me. I'm good. I have everything I want to say on the table.
I'm going to reiterate this for the 4th time. It needs to not only be pretty and full of fan service, but it needs to be a sustainable enough game on its own to last 6 months or a year or even longer than that. It needs to have enough going for it to have people coming back long enough for that online you touted to be the greatest thing to still even be there 6 months or a year later after people stop giving a shit. It needs to have...
Yeah, and considering Namco has been really good, well, actually no, Soul Calibur 2 apparently tanked in online.
Soul Calibur 2 HD came out on Tuesday. It can't have tanked.
Apparently, dude, it's tanking in the online mode. Everyone hates it.
Weren't there like 2 different bundles of it?
I'm just talking about the one you can buy regularly.
Yeah, I checked that on PSN. There's like 2 different versions of it.
What's on there?
Huh?
What do they have? They have the Xbox and PS2 versions, or what do they got?
I don't know if there's actually a difference. All I know is that one of them costs like $10 and the other is like 11 or 12, I think.
That's weird. I guess it must have to do with the guest character it had. I don't know. That's
must
probably
be a content difference.
Probably. Anyway, I think we should wrap this up before we start ranting about other shit.
So yeah, it needs to be sustainable and it needs to be loaded with content. And by content, I don't just mean things that make it pretty or just the things people like. It needs to have other separate modes. It needs to be sustainable as a single-player game with one character modes. Because...
Which, as hard as that sounds, games like Raging Blast 1 have managed to do that before.
The problem with Raging Blast 1 is that it had all the right modes, but its gameplay was terrible. If those modes were in Raging Blast 2, that game would be picture perfect.
I'm just talking about modes, yeah. I wasn't talking about gameplay.
I know, that's what I'm saying. If the gameplay was boring, so no one would do those modes anyways, but those modes were the perfect things. Quote-unquote mini-games, kind of. Dragon Ball Battle, Arcade, Survival, etc. Those modes were perfect to be in a game, but the gameplay was so boring no one came back to it in the first place. If those games were in Raging Blast 2 with their mixed received gameplay, it would have been perfect. Because Raging Blast 2 only technically has like 3 modes. It has Tournament, it has, I think it was called Z-Battle or something, whatever the Raging Blast 2's equivalent of Ultimate Battle is, and Story.
I think Ultimate Battle in that one was basically story mode itself.
What?
I think its version of Ultimate Battle was essentially story mode.
No, it wasn't. Those were 2 different things.
Oh, no, is that like... pseudo tower defense thing where you go through like gauntlets. I don't know what it's called.
Hold on.
I should totally look into it. That actually would be pretty cool if we make a video stuff.
One sec. Well, yeah, we can do it. It's
Okay.
it's their basic equivalent of arcade.
How long is it?
Roughly about 5-8 fights each.
That's
there
not so
are
bad.
multiples, but
Well,
there's. Hold on. Looking at a menu list for it. That. The main menu is not a good reference for that. One
surprising.
sec. Characters. It doesn't... The wiki lists its gameplay modes. Lovely.
That's weird, but okay.
Hold on. Menus. I'm going to search this one more time.
One more time.
Oh, Galaxy Mode.
Galaxy mode, that was
wait. Galaxy mode was the story. Yeah, that is the story mode. Fuck, what was the other one called?
Insert name here.
I'll figure it out later.
Alright, well, I think we should stop recording now before we get too much into a tangent again. Alright.
So again, we want it to be pretty, and we want it to be a sustainable game. That's basically all I know.
You know what? I know exactly how I'm going to edit this now, too.
How much of me repeating myself are you going to cut out?
I'm not going to cut out any of it. I've got to keep it all in.
Oh, just adding in pictures and videos and stuff?
I know how I'm going to... Well, I'm not going to be doing videos, but I know how I'm going to lay this out. I'm going to have the background. I'm going to have the character select screen on top of the DLC characters. Yeah, just keep it simple.
Nice.
Yeah, so anyway.
Alright.
I'll see you guys whenever we decide to do one of these again. I think we can do the Storm 3 Final Impressions next time, maybe.
Sure.
Alright.
See ya.
Later.